Michigan State basketball, they are rolling right now, 19-2 overall. They have an amazing defense, but history says their offense might keep them from going on a deep run. Or does it say that? I don't know. It's actually kind of confusing, but we'll make some sense of it.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week, right here on the number one ranked Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how deep of a run you think Michigan State can make, whether that's win the Big Ten title, whether that's March Madness, whatever it is, guys. Yes, I know that we still have a handful of games left, but who are we kidding? Our eyes are always on March and seeing how far this team can go. We're going to start there. We're going to talk basketball. We're going to talk about Michigan State football recruiting in segments 2 and 3 with the one, the only Ryan O'Blennis of Spartans Illustrated, because there is another big Junior Day weekend coming up. We still have another big visitor for the 2026 class that will be on East Lansing soil here. But again, that's segments 2 and 3. Let's keep talking about this basketball team, 19-2. God, I'm still riding the high of that game against Rutgers. And not to make a big deal about a game where you should have won pretty handedly. You're favored by 15, but woo! Man, oh man, was that some championship DNA stuff, getting it out of the mud. And speaking of championships, guys, it's about that time of year where this graphic or this tweet or the social media post always floats around the college basketball circles. And yes, it is the stat that 92% of champions have a top 31 KenPom defense pre-tournament. That's right. And 96% of champions in the last 25 years, they've had a top 21 offense when they go into the tournament. Now, how is that judged? How are they ranked inside the top 31 or top 21? This is on adjusted offense and defensive efficiency. So what that is, how many points are you scoring in 100 possessions against an average defense? It's weighted, so really driving up the score against a really good defensive team, that will help your score more than, well, skyrocketing the scoreboard against a pretty lousy team. It is weighted on a law of averages. And look, guys, we know Michigan State is squarely in that top 31 for best defenses in the nation, right? You mosey on over to barttorvik.com, which is pretty similar to KenPom. We'll use this for this exercise. On barttorvik.com, the defensive efficiency is 91.4, which is second best in the country. Guys, a more layman stat of looking at this, in 14 Power 5 games, only Penn State and most recently Rutgers have gone over 70 points. You want to go back to some analytics, evanmaya.com, he has Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, Jeremy Fears, all in the top 30 for individual defensive players. We know the story about this defense, but let's talk about the offensive efficiency because, well, Michigan State right now, 119.2 is their adjusted offensive efficiency on Bart Torvik, which is good for 51st in the country, which is still pretty good because, guys, 119.2, that's the highest that adjusted offensive efficiency number has been since 2019. I seem to think that year went pretty well for our Spartans, but yet it's the lowest ranking that they've had in the nation since 2021, that year where it seemed like it was pulling teeth trying to get the ball into the cup. So what's going on here? It's a very high number, but it should be ranked higher, but this year it's not because, guys, offenses nationwide are getting a lot better. We talked about this at the end of yesterday's show with Connor Muldowney, but we're going to make some more sense and add more context to what this all means here. Oh yeah, I keep on barking out this number. 119.1 or 0.2 is their offensive efficiency, right? Last year, instead of ranking 51st in the country like it is this year so far, last year, that would be good for 23rd best offense. In 2024, 19th best offense. 2023 and 2022, 7th best offensive efficiency. You take it all the way back to 2021, guys, a 119 would have put you 6th. Like, offenses are just getting so much more efficient at scoring the basketball. How about that? It's like analytics actually means something in the world of hoops. But guys, I wanted to know why this is the case. Are teams just better at shooting? Do they prioritize three-pointers more than ever? And yes, there is something to that. You've all seen the shot charts by now that basketball kind of skews more towards make it either a high-efficiency shot like a layup or at least go for a big reward like a three-pointer, okay? Now here in East Lansing, we know that the mid-range jumper is going to be a staple no matter which way basketball goes. But hey, this is one reason. But the bigger reason that I've noticed is that free throw rates nationwide are higher, especially for these teams that are ranked ahead of Michigan State in offensive efficiency. Teams are getting to the free throw line more effectively than they ever have before. They are 3 points. It should be easy. But in 2025-26, teams are really waking up and getting better at finding their way to the charity stripe. So what does this mean for Michigan State? Can they still make a run, even though the numbers in the history tells you that, oh my God, they're outside the top 50? Psh, yeah, right. Look, let's go through things that are going well, things that are going okay for Michigan State, and what can actually get better here for this offense to end the season. And what's going really well for Michigan State, this is why they're around 50 and not 150, is, well, it helps when you are a top 10 team in offensive rebounding percentage, okay? Getting those second chance points, making the most of your possessions, and it also helps too when you have a dynamite point guard and overall the number 3 assist rate in the country. Now, what's going okay? Now, when I say okay, I genuinely mean that. I don't mean like, you know, when your girlfriend or your wife or your husband says, oh yeah, no, that's okay. And really they mean it's catastrophically horrible. No, genuinely, this is what's going okay for Michigan State right now. 3-point shooting. Boy, what a far way they've come from last year. This was a big concern of mine going into this season, and I'm actually very proud and happy to be wrong here. This is great. Good job, guys. Way to go. Their 3-point shooting, 35.9%. That is 72nd in the country, so that's even better than okay. That's pretty good, guys. Free throw percentage, around 73.9%. That's about average. Still outside the top 100, but that's better than most teams. But here is what has to get better for this offense to jump up in the rankings. And this is stuff that actually can be improved upon. I'm not just throwing out things that are a pipe dream. No, you actually can see things maybe improve in this last month of the season before March here. The turnover percentage is 236th in the country. It's been a roller coaster of a season for Michigan State. Even the last game against Rutgers itself was a roller coaster. They couldn't wait to cough the ball up in the first half and then tighten things up in the second half. And the other thing, too, that I want to see improved is I'm going to go back to that free throw rate. It is 157th in the nation, so just a smidge above average, but that is a step back from where Michigan State was nationally last year. Oh, where art thou, Frankie Fiddler? Oh, man, did that guy love getting to the rack. Anyway, guys, so here's what can also change individually with some players on offense. Like, for example, Cohen Carr, who I think has had a fine season. Like, I have spoken very highly of Cohen Carr, but look, here's some criticisms for all our guys. This is a steep drop-off in free throw percentage for Cohen Carr. Not free throw rate, not how much he's getting to the line, but when he's actually at the line, he's gone from 70% last year to 58% this year. Jeremy Fears, just a 28% shooter from 3, and it's getting a little better, but can it be more consistent? Jackson Kohler, I think the world of this kid, just like you do, but he only has 2 free throw attempts per game. For as good of a free throw shooter as he is, maybe we can draw some more fouls. And I'm not saying just make your entire game foul baiting, but don't be too shy from it. Come on now. And I would also challenge Divine Ukachukwu to get a little more downhill and get to the free throw line. I don't even know if he's averaging 2 free throw attempts per game, but man, I'm nitpicking. But this is what you have to do if you have championship aspirations, trying to improve in the margins here. So that's just what I want to throw out. So look, guys, can Michigan State make a run if nothing changes? If they're still a 119.2 offensive efficiency, they're ranked just outside the top 50. Well, a run doesn't have to necessarily mean winning at all. What I've done, I went back and I looked at the last the last 5 Final Fours, and I saw, well, who was the worst offensive efficiency team in the Final Four? Okay, well, Last year, all of them were in the top 15 in adjusted offensive efficiency. So, okay, great, fair. NC State the year prior, they had an offensive efficiency of 114.2, and they also had DJ Burns. That helped a little bit as well. It's 2023, the most forgettable Final Four of all time. San Diego State was the worst-ranked offense team. They were 61st in the country. However, a 110.8. North Carolina in 2022 was the worst one, and they were 17th in the nation. But they had a 114.4. That is 5 points lower than Michigan State, yet they were still in the top 20 squarely. And then 2021, of course, we lost to this team to kick off our NCAA tournament and our season, of course. UCLA, they were the worst offensive efficiency team, but they were 11th best in the country. Even as an 11 seed, they still had a really good offense, as we learned the hard way. They were at 115.9. So still, guys, like, 119. Yes, you might see that as, just barely outside the top 50. Oh my God. How are we going to do this? KenPom tells us that we just shouldn't even enter this tournament. Like, we're already screwed. But the actual number itself, that is a good offense. So I don't know where I'm going to land here, guys. On one hand, yeah, the math tells you, the numbers tell you, the computers tell you there are 50 better offensive teams in the country. But our eyes are telling you, history is telling you that, well, this is still one of the better offenses in recent memory. And pair it with a defense that is, like, at worst, a top 5 defense in the country. Okay, well, I like our chances here. So, look, guys, yeah, they're outside the top 40 by a decent margin, but, I mean, it's not too far from where everyone else is. So, yes, guys, every other year, they'd be squarely in the top 40, sometimes even in the top 15 in the last 5 seasons. I'm chilling right now, and that's only going to get more amplified if they pull off the win on Friday. All right, guys, let's get to recruiting for Junior Day coming up with the only Ryan O'Bleness of Spartans Illustrated.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The WNBA has released its 2026 schedule featuring a 44-game regular season beginning on Friday, May 8th. The league's historic 30th season includes expansion teams Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, with opening weekend highlights such as Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings, and a rematch of the 2025 finals between the Aces and the Mercury. In college hoops, South Carolina handed Vanderbilt its first loss of the season with a dominant 103-74 win. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
If you thought one Junior Day at Michigan State was good, well, you're going to love this conversation because there is another one coming up this weekend. And that's just me talking about it, guys. It's the one, the only Ryan O'Bleness. He is not just the managing editor at Spartans Illustrated, but you pretty much do it all there. You, David Harns, and the fine folks over there are churning out great content almost every single hour, it seems like. So, Ryan, thanks a lot for joining us, and let's get into it right here. Last week, we saw some big names, 4 stars from the great state of Michigan, Miles Smith, Jakari Lipsky, obviously running back Xavier Owens, who committed last weekend. But let's zoom into this week right now. And I will remind folks, this is the middle of the week. Names could be added. Names could be subtracted. But in the here and now, Ryan, what name or two is the headliner for the second Junior Day weekend here for Michigan State recruiting?
I mean, obviously, the biggest perhaps visitor is the one who's already committed but not yet signed. Samson Gash is expected to take his second official visit with Michigan State. He can do that because of the coaching change. Normally you're only allowed to take one official visit at a school, but with the change from Jonathan Smith to Pat Fitzgerald, he's able to do that, and he's coming off of an official visit from Penn State. And these two teams are kind of neck and neck. He's remained committed to Michigan State this whole time. Yep. He hasn't backed off his pledge, but obviously he kind of reopened his recruitment in terms of being open to talking with other schools, and he's gotten a lot of interest, a lot of offers. West Virginia made a hard push for him during the early signing period, but he didn't sign there, and that kind of faded out, and now it's really between Michigan State and Penn State. I know there's some confidence that he's still going to sign with the Spartans, but obviously he has a connection with Penn State too, like his dad played there. Yeah. And they are really making a big push for him. That's a new staff over there too, and that's the guy they really want. But obviously Michigan State is, has set a good foundation with him. Obviously he knows the school well. They retain his position coach, Courtney Hawkins, on the Fitzgerald staff. I know he's talked with Fitzgerald multiple times now, so we'll see how that official visit goes. But yeah, in terms of the junior day itself, there are a lot of intriguing visitors. You have 4-star tight end Anthony Cartwright coming from in-state. Don Spillers is a kid they've offered. Chad Willis. Those are some receivers. Elijah Gones, he from Macomb, Dakota. He played with Damari Malone at Dakota, formerly Justin Bell, who transferred out. But, he's a guy who's visited multiple times to MSU and was waiting on that offer a long time. And when Fitzgerald got there, it didn't take very long for MSU to offer him. So, he's another one who's coming. Jameer Henry, Daryl Flemester, Keeson Taylor's going to be there on Sunday, February 1st. And then, another one who I am keeping a close eye on is in-state athlete Lundon Hampton, who, he has a connection to Michigan State because his cousin is Kari Willis, who, was a great
good call. Okay.
And, I think, I don't know what his timeline is exactly in terms of a commitment, but I do think Michigan State's going to be in a strong position there throughout his recruitment. So interested to see how that visit goes. He was initially expected to visit for last week's junior day, but he actually switched it to this week.
Okay.
And
I know that was that not Pat Fitzgerald's first? Sorry to cut you off. Was it Lundon Hampton not Pat Fitzgerald's first offer when he got to East Lansing? I mean, it seems like he was prioritizing London immediately.
At least publicly known offer.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a super close eye we're going to keep on Lundon Hampton then. I mean, it's not to expect commitments coming out of a junior day. I think the Xavier Owens thing was a special circumstance, but hey, why not make it 2 back-to-back weekends? So that's why I got my eye closest up. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to double check that fact there. Yeah,
with Owens, he had a prior connection with running back coach Devin Spalding because he offered him at Wisconsin. So, why that seemed like it happened very quickly. He actually had a good relationship with Spalding already, so that trust was there. And I think that after he visited, he kind of knew this was a place for him. This was a staff for him. So. He wanted that. And then what I was going to say earlier is I did just confirm that I know you mentioned Jakari Lipsy earlier. I did just confirm that he did not make it last weekend.
Good catch. Okay.
So just wanted to put that out there. And it doesn't sound like he has visit plans this weekend as of yet, so we'll see what happens there.
Good call. That's a bummer. Look, of the 3 stars, because obviously, you said 4-star tight end Anthony Cartwright, he's going to be here. Obviously, we want the 4 stars to commit, of course, but of the 3 stars that you're looking at here for this weekend, if you could just pin one on a wish list for Michigan State fans, where would you go? Because I'm going to go in the trenches. I'm going to go not just with the position of need defensive line, but also let's establish a pipeline out of Detroit with Jameer Henry. He plays at MLK. If there's one that I could handpick of the 3 stars that are visiting, that's who I've got. He's got good offers. Vanderbilt's offered, Illinois' offered. I believe Michigan offered a while ago. So that's where I'm going to go. Are you going to go down the same route if you could pick one 3-star here, or where are you going to go here, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I like the wide receivers visiting a lot, Willis and Spillers. Okay. Goings is kind of an athlete who can play DB. But, if I'm picking one from this list, Matt, where would you say Michigan State's still lacking at? Would it be perhaps a pass rush, the edge rusher position?
That's been great the last few years. No, don't worry about that. We're set. We don't need any talent in that room. So, of course it is.
Yeah, so Taylor's one that, I think would be an important addition if they were able to eventually land him. Any time you can get help on the edge, that rush in position or defensive in position, or the general pass rush, I think that's very important. But 3 stars, 4 stars, it doesn't really matter. This is a really good good list of visitors coming in.
Yeah.
And obviously they're putting a big emphasis on in-state guys and a big emphasis on Midwest guys. Pat Fitzgerald is an Illinois guy himself. He coached at Northwestern forever as both a head coach and an assistant coach. He played at Northwestern. It seems pretty evident to me that they are putting a big time emphasis on the Midwest, and especially the state of Michigan, and then Illinois in particular. Yep. Now you see them in Indiana, Ohio. They got Owens out of Ohio already. So, I think that Midwest pipeline is something that they're going to continue to hit hard.
All right, more to come with our guy Ryan O'Blennis, but first, guys, Rocket Money. Oh boy, they're going to help a lot of us here because let's be real, managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions that you just straight up forgot about, bills that keep on going up, trying to figure out where all your money is actually going every month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, right? And who has time to track every single transaction, hunt down hidden fees, try to remember those subscriptions? Well, guys, that's where Rocket Money comes in. The personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings, guys. I love how it tracks all the subscriptions. It lets me cancel them right there in the app. How simple is that? It just takes a few taps and bam, no more hunting down customer service numbers or going through your emails and then having to click 16 different tabs as they're begging you not to unsubscribe. I literally just had this happen the other week, guys. But no, Rocket Money's here to save us all. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. One more time, guys, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And just going from the last junior day, obviously the big piece of news was Xavier Owens, running back out of Ohio. He commits to Michigan State. But you're as plugged in as anyone else, Ryan. What was the second biggest storyline coming out of last weekend's junior day? Anyone really love it? Any big names that we got to keep a close eye on as we get into the spring cycle and then June? Or I guess what's the second biggest takeaway right after Xavier Owens' commitment last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, again, they had some good, a really good list of visitors, especially a lot of guys in state. A lot of guys that are going to be top targets for them, like, 4-star in-state edge Miles Smith was on campus, Brian DeMoss, edge rusher from Illinois on campus. They had Tyree Clark, and a lot of these guys got reoffered, Jack Carlson. But, I think just the general message to me was that they are kind of establishing themselves and in the recruiting pipeline. Like they're a lot of the takeaway, I heard from a lot of these kids after their visits, and a lot of the takeaway, when you get quotes after kids from visits, obviously they're excited, they have a lot of positive things to say. But the general message for me that I kind of took away from all my various conversations with these kids was that this staff, it is bought into all things Spartan football. They want to bring it back to the traditional Michigan State football, tough, hard-nosed, bought in, doing things the right way. Everything that, it was kind of preached under, I don't want to compare it to Mark D'Antonio per se, but, I kind of get that vibe. Obviously, like Cola's back. And Fitzgerald, it was from that same era as D'Antonio, and obviously now the game's a lot different, right?
I would say, a touch, perhaps.
NIL and transfer portal and all of that, and they're rebuilding the roster, but it's just that takeaway from me was nobody's going to be taking shortcuts here. They're going to do things the right way. They're going to establish the foundation, and they're going to build up from there. And, they want Michigan State football to be back up in that upper echelon of the conversation that was during the prime D'Antonio days. And they think they have a plan to get there. And that plan is clear to these recruits. And I don't think that necessarily, we're going to see that kind of immediate success in year one. I think this year is, like I said, about establishing the foundation. You do your best to get as many wins as you can, wins as you can, get to a bowl game, and then show that success, show that that you're able to kind of make that ascension. And, you know, again, that visitor list from last week was pretty stacked. They, you know, they sent out some nice offensive line offers. Like I said, Carlson got re-offered, Grant Adloff, Reed Gherkin, and, you know, on the defensive line, another kid, I might butcher his name, but Omai Ozaluza.
Okay. That's better than I could do. So well done. Well done. Yep. You nailed it.
He's another one of those, you know, defensive linemen that really have my eye. That's a kid that's blown up a lot, you know, during this contact period with a lot of big offers. And he's already, you know, telling me, yeah, Michigan State's going to be toward the top of his recruitment because of his relationship now with Coach Fitz, you know, Coach Debo on the defensive line. And, you know, he's a guy who can play that traditional down defensive end. He could stand up as a rush end. He can move inside as a 3-tech if needed. That's the kind of versatile defensive lineman that, you know, Michigan State needs. And I think the staff is clearly putting a emphasis on getting him. You know, it's still early on in his process, so it's hard to say. But, you know, he was adamant that Michigan State's going to be a real player in his recruitment moving forward.
Now, we're just going to end it here because I just have to sympathize with Pat Fitzgerald. And sounds silly. The guy's getting paid millions to coach football. Like, how much can I really cry for the guy? But like, Ryan, you think we're busy people. My goodness, this guy gets on campus. It's immediately signing day. Then you got to go through your whole current roster, see who's going to stay, see who's going to go. Then it's the transfer portal season. And then right after that is junior day time. And then, oh, that's right, another junior day weekend coming up. After this weekend, though, is there kind of like a calm in the storm? What's the next biggest thing for Michigan State football? Because it seems like they're done adding out of the transfer portal for now. They might add a few more after spring ball. Yes, there's no portal cycle, but there are still kids in the transfer portal that you could still add to your roster. Is it pretty much a break between the end of this weekend to spring? Like, does Pat Fitzgerald actually get to sit down on a couch and like scroll on his phone or do whatever he wants to do to relax for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, well, it in terms of the recruiting calendar, you know, almost all of February, I think outside of February 1st is a dead period.
Okay.
And so that basically just means you can't, you know, obviously travel to high schools like they've been doing throughout January and meet with kids and meet with coaches, and you can't bring kids to campus. But that doesn't mean that recruiting stops, right? Like you're still on the phone, texting, calling, emailing, social media, whatever. Like you can still contact these kids that way. So, yeah, I mean, a coach's job, especially this day and age, it's honestly a college coach is 365-day job. Like there's very little downtime. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't envy these guys.
I wouldn't want it. I would not want to do this. Hey, great, $5 million a year. That's awesome. When do you have time to spend it?
Right. But right. Yeah, I mean, so I don't think we're not going to see, like you said, you know, that obviously there was that big boom in the transfer portal as they, you know, lost 40 guys and brought in 30 guys. And, but there still could be a couple added, you know, after spring ball. You know, the roster construction is something interesting because you have your 105-man limit, but you also have those kind of preferred walk-in guys that are grandfathered in, right? So you, for you know, if they were here previously, so you don't necessarily have to be exactly at 105, but you might also have to make some choices eventually of if you're going to add, like if others need to go, you know, if they're not part of those grandfather guys or what the deal is. You know, obviously Michigan State has a general manager for that, Brian Gasser, to figure all that out, and along with the coaching staff. But yeah, I mean, I think their roster is in a good spot. Like I said, you know, the defensive line, it is something that is still looking pretty thin. So, you know, maybe that's an area they look to add to, maybe wide receiver. But for the most part, yeah, the roster is what it is. And, you know, outside of possibly a couple of additions, then this is, you know, pretty much the roster that you think you can bring into fall camp. You know, we'll see. Obviously, spring ball, the point of that is to assess what you have right now. And then obviously there's going to be more high school guys who come in the summer. Like we said, potentially a couple more portal guys if they add. And then, so that's going to be your roster. So it's different than it was in previous years when you had a spring portal cycle too, and most of those guys didn't arrive until the summer. What you have now is going to give you a good baseline of what your 2026 roster will look like, outside of a couple of names here and there. So yeah, I mean, in terms of what the coaches are going to be doing, they're constantly evaluating. They're constantly going to be talking to the recruits still. But yeah, I think the next big thing to, in a roundabout way, finally answer your question is obviously spring ball.
Yep.
And that's going to be an exciting time because you get to see, like I said, what your new look roster looks like. You get to see how these guys compete with each other. Right now, they're going through strength and conditioning to get, bigger, faster, stronger. Yep. From what I've been told, those workouts under new strength and conditioning coach Joel Welsh have been very intense.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah, they're getting put through the meat grinder right now. So good.
Yeah, and that's what you want. Then when you finally get to spring ball, that's, you get out on the grass, in the practice fields and see what your team's made out of right now. You're able to assess what you might still need if you are able to add a couple of spots, and then you go from there. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a, exciting time because of all the changes. It's new. I don't think anybody really knows what to expect at this point. And then I guess I should mention too that there is, of course, the February signing period coming up as well.
Yeah, certainly.
Before spring ball. So that's when MSU is going to hope to lock in Samson Gash and get his signature and get him on the roster. And then, could they possibly look to any other high school guys? Not really anybody on my radar right now, but possibly, from the JUCO ranks, or even, if they like another PWO or two, preferred walk on, that's the time to add those guys. So obviously Gash is the big name to watch out for that signing period. There aren't really any other names registering right now, but like I said, the staff is constantly looking into that, doing their due diligence. And, would it be shocking to see another person added during that period? No, I don't think so. But, it's all part of the evaluation and what they think they still need and what they can add and who they can get. So,
folks, there you have it. That's the one, the only Ryan O'Blenis. And again, guys, they're doing awesome work over at Spartans Illustrated. Go read them. Go subscribe to them. And guys, also, hey, stay tuned because tomorrow, we're going to break down full episode Michigan State basketball, 8 p.m. on Friday. But before that, Greg Waddell of Sleepers Media. He joins the show for a riveting preview. Cannot wait for that chat. Ryan, you're the best, man. Much appreciated. All the viewers, all the listeners, you guys are also the best. Love every single one of you. Take care of yourselves. Go Green.